Over 200 experts have shared their secrets to a successful business. Join me, Rose Davidson, as I discover how these experts took their businesses to the next level.
Talking with the experts.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. Talking about all things business by business owners for business owners. Episode 238 with Liz Wolfe.
Well, people are only ever going to buy anything from you if you're solving a problem for them. And they will only buy something, a problem that they value. So, for instance, I live in a beautiful townhouse in the western part of New York City in West Harlem. It's a wonderful neighborhood. It's large. My house is very large. When people come over, they say, wow, how do you get all this? You do all this housework? And I look at them blankly because I do almost no housework, partly because my husband does part of it. But I have a problem. There's a lot of dust in New York City. But guess what? I don't care. So I'm not hiring a housekeeper to come in and clean my dust for me because it's not a problem I care about. You know, after every once in a while, yeah, maybe I will, etc. So even though it's a problem, you know, you could look at my stuff and see it's dusty. It's not a problem I want you to solve for me. I don't have any value there. So
Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. And you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. And my guest today is Liz Wolfe from Liz Wolfe Coaching. And we're going to be discussing the 3 keys to an abundant business and overcome the top 3 barriers to successful selling. Now, I will learn quite a bit to that because I always feel like the sales process is a little bit salesy, and I have changed my language around that and changed, I guess, my mindset a little bit about how I'm going to do that. So Liz is a business coach. She's an author and a speaker who coaches entrepreneurs to get unstuck so that they can launch and grow an abundant business. She got her entrepreneurial start growing up on a sheep farm in Western Pennsylvania with her mother and 2 sisters. Later, she moved to New York City, where she created a successful computer consulting business with her husband. Eventually, she transitioned out of the technology business to apply her experience in a more interpersonal context, helping business owners to develop an abundant mindset. Welcome, Liz, and thank you so much for your patience and for joining me today.
absolutely. Thank you, Rose. I'm sure many people have told you this, but Rose was my grandmother's name, and she was one of my most favorite people in the whole world. So I already feel a warm connection to you.
Wonderful. Now, you do say that your greatest accomplishment is staying married to your husband. First, we'll touch on that a little bit. You know, I've been married now for 30 years. So 25 years is a great milestone. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I guess, let's touch on why people feel uncomfortable about sales.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned, me being married to my husband for 25 years, and why that's such an accomplishment is because there was I grew up on a sheep farm, as you mentioned in my in my bio there, and I don't know if you also noticed that my last name is Wolfe, so there's no lack of jokes around that. But I grew up in a somewhat contentious world in my farm experience, and that my parents were divorced. So it was part of the reason that it's a major accomplishment for me to have been married to my husband for 25 years is because I also work with him.
Good point.
Right. We have a business together. And so one of the I would say, muscles that I have had to learn that relates both to selling and having a key to having an abundant business, which I'm so joyful to report that we have created together, is the ability to ask for what you want. And that is a big problem for people in the sales world because we are really reticent to ask. So that's the first key to creating an abundant business. Ask for what you want, ask powerfully. And, it's always good to have husbands around to ask, to exercise your asking muscles to get that sort of thing, skill honed for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Although my husband asks me for the money now because I won't let him have any. So I guess what are the three barriers that people have around asking for money?
Yeah, so here's the thing. When you think about selling, and I'm sure that lots of people who are listening today and your listeners, being entrepreneurs, business owners, selling is such an important part of your business, right? You can't survive without selling. You have to have some sales. But weirdly, it's the thing many people, not everyone, but many people have a strong resistance to. And you have to ask yourself why. What's so terrible about me selling the product that I love so much, that I believe in so strongly, that's going to solve my clients' problems for them? Why can't I just go ask them to buy my products? And I think one of the biggest reasons that people do have resistance is because they're very afraid that they're going to sound pushy or salesy, or like the proverbial used car salesman type of a person. And so what we tend to do is we want to soft pedal things. We want to make it easier for people not to feel like they're put upon, etc. But as a result, what ends up happening is we'll get to the end of a sales conversation and we don't make that direct ask for a sale. We say things like, what do you think? Or how does that fit in your budget? Which actually could be a good question. But just ways that we want to soft pedal it for people, or we just plain don't come right out and ask for the sale. And one of the ways specifically that we think we're being pushy, especially in today's world where so many of our sales are reliant on technology, like follow-up emails and things like that. Statistics show you have to follow up at least 6, maybe 8 times with someone before they will buy something for you. And when I did a poll in one of my online trainings once, asking how often do you follow up with people? They say, mostly people will say once, some people say twice. If they've done my workshops, they probably say, 4 or 5. But almost no one will say that they just keep following up until they say no, because that's pushy or salesy. And, but if you stop after 1 or 2, you're never going to get the sale because they're not going to buy from you after 1 or 2.
No, that's right. I've heard tell that now there's 27 touch points before someone will buy from you. So that's what I've heard recently. It used to be 5 or 6, but now it's like 27. So that's quite a lot of touch points before you get someone to buy something from you. And I think people are a bit frightened of that. I think because they think, why do I need to keep, following up and following up and following up with it all the time? When after 3 or 4, they should be ready to buy. But but how do you prepare your prospect to actually buy from you, to get them to that yes stage?
How do you prepare them? Well, people are only ever going to buy anything from you if you're solving a problem for them. And they will only buy something, a problem that they value. So for instance, I live in a beautiful townhouse in the western part of New York City in West Harlem. It's a wonderful neighborhood. It's large. My house is very large. And when people come over, they say, wow, how do you get all this? You do all this housework? And I look at them blankly because I do almost no housework, partly because my husband does part of it. But I have a problem. There's a lot of dust in New York City. But guess what? I don't care. So I'm not hiring a housekeeper to come in and clean my dust for me because it's not a problem I care about. After every once in a while, yeah, maybe I will, etc. So even though it's a problem, you could look at my stuff and see it's dusty. It's not a problem I want you to solve for me. I don't have any value there. So the most important thing to get to people is, what is the problem that they have that you are solving for them? And lately, I've actually been thinking about this too. What is the problem that you care about solving for people? And I can solve a lot of problems, but what do I care about solving for people? And for me, the problem that I care about solving is helping new entrepreneurs or people that are trying to grow their business to get unstuck so that they can launch it and grow it. Okay? If you come to me and you feel stuck and you say, I feel stuck, and I say I can help you to get unstuck, then I'm solving a problem for you that you see value for. Well, after that, if you tell me, yeah, I'm feeling some pain because I feel stuck and I want to launch this business and or I want to grow my business. Well, I'm going to keep coming back to you and saying, well, are you ready to grow your business now? Are you ready to grow your business now? Are you ready to grow the business now? I'm not going to stop asking you that until you say to me, no, because you told me you have a problem. So people will buy from you and they will not feel like you're pushing them as long as you are focused on them and their problem. That's the most important thing.
Sounds very, very logical. And that's it is a mindset thing though, isn't it? The sales process. It's I have found that I get to like the second maybe call, and then I think, well, I think it's that fear of rejection that stops me from going further with the conversation. So, I mean, the fear of rejection, I guess that is a mindset thing, really, because it's a fear. It's an internal fear that only the person like myself can only deal with that. So how can they get over that fear of rejection? Because I think it's a lot to do with our bringing up, our upbringing, is when, we were told if we ask for a toy or some other favor from our parents and they said no, then we'd stopped asking after a while because we knew that what the answer would most likely be. And because we didn't ask anymore, we may have been given that thing. So how do we get over that fear?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And you mentioned asking for toys and being rejected. I mean, for me, it's always seventh grade, the world's worst grade, the most terrible grade when you're growing up. Like, you're just, what makes somebody else cute and popular and somebody else not, and then you ask the guy, and I don't know if they do this where you are, but the Sadie Hawkins dance, and you go and ask.
I remember that when I was a kid.
Like that's the one dance that the girl gets to ask the guy. For anyone listening who's under 30, you girl gets to ask the boy to the dance, and you're like, it's mortifying if they reject you. I highly recommend a book that's called 100 Days of Rejection by Xi Zhang. He also has a really great TED Talk. He was having a hard time feeling rejected and he couldn't grow his business because he was feeling rejected. And what he decided to do was to go out purposely to get rejected. And he was going to do one thing, I think, for 100 days. I may be remembering the name of the book wrong, but it's a very famous TED Talk. If you just go on and look up rejection, Xi Zhang, you will find it. He purposely went out to get rejected. So that's the first thing that I tell people. Again, this goes back to asking and being able to ask and honing your skills around asking is literally the best thing that you can do. What's your fastest path to cash in your business? Ask. So, but if you're afraid to be rejected, you're not going to ask. You're not going to do that. So I tell people, go out and purposely make some asks for the purpose of getting rejected. Now, if you don't want to go that far, you can do what I call ask with detachment. So you ask, would you like the sale? But you're making those sales calls just to make the sales calls, not to make the sale. so that you just get used to just being asking. And after a while, this is true for money too. If you want to ask for more money, just practice asking for more money. Don't be concerned about whether people give it to you or not. It rolls off your tongue a lot easier when you practice.
Okay, practice makes perfect. It's what we're told all the time. So
Right.
we'll see. So I guess, so instead of, being shy or reticent or whatever to ask for the money, what are the words that we can use to learn to ask powerfully and to give heartedly and receive graciously?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So, when I say ask powerfully, what I'm really referring to is to be specific. So many times we're not specific about asking for what we want. And that, I was just talking with one of my clients today, and she said, yeah, I got this great offer to write. It was a writing gig. And I said, that's great. And of course, the first thing I want to know is, how much are you charging? And she said, well, we didn't talk about that yet. I'm like, did you ask? So listen, I'm not going to fault her. She said, well, they're working out the details. Okay, that's not the point. The point is, when we're afraid, maybe we're afraid, like if I ask for too much, they might say no. But just being specific, finding out the specifics will save you so much time and money and hassle and energy in your life. And so that's what I mean by asking. Now, there's the other side to asking, which is also receiving. And that's another thing about one of the things about selling that they actually don't like to ask about money, and they don't like to talk about money. And they think we were taught that it's like rude to talk about money. And part of that is, how much money are you ready, willing, and able to receive? So let's receive that money. So that's sort of the flip side of the asking, because people say all the time, oh, I'm so ready to receive. I am so ready to bring that money into my life. And I'm like, really? Okay. If I offered you $5 because you gave me a ride and I offered you $5 for gas, would you take it? Oh, no. I'm gonna just offer all right. Well, my philosophy is, if you offer me $10 for gas at the end of a ride, or $5 or whatever, I take it. Thank you. I receive it graciously. Thank you. Why? Because I want money. So all of these things are like what I would call expanding your context. So, or probably other people would say like expanding your comfort zone. So getting bolder about asking with detachment, getting more focused and clear about receiving what's coming towards you, and not conditionally, but in a way that's relaxed and where you're allowing it to occur. If you practice on honing those skills, that you will see a shift.
Okay, so is it like manifesting? Is it this sort of the same principle as people who manifest money all the time? Is that the sort of along those lines, or is it actually just changing your language and changing your mindset?
Well, you bring up a really interesting point, because you have to ask yourself, why do some people have so much more money than other people? And it's a very simple answer that is probably going to blow everybody's mind. Because they received more money. That's the only reason people have more money, is because they received more money. Now, you might say, Liz, that is totally oversimplifying. What about marketing? Or whatever. But I have more money because I've received more money. And that's how I got more money. I could get more specific and say that I asked for money and then I received it, because again, they work together. Can you repeat your question? Because I think how is that like manifesting?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So do you ever have a house plant at all?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I also have house plants, and I have Christmas cactus, and it's just about blooming.
Yeah, mine's beautiful. Yeah, mine's outside and it's gorgeous.
Yeah. So I'm not very good at watering mine. So I've managed to keep it alive, but and now it's starting to bloom again, although one side's a little droopier than the other. I don't not very good at watering it. So in between when I water it, it dries out pretty much a lot, right? I've never killed it yet. So then did you ever notice that if you let your plants dry out too much, that when you pour water in it, it goes right through? Now, those of you out there in listening land who don't ever not water your plants enough, you'd be like, what do you mean? Because if you do water your plants, it keeps the soil moist. And when you pour more water in it, it just absorbs it. It doesn't run right through. It runs right through because the context of absorption is not there. It's just like a sponge, right? You can't take a completely dry sponge and put it on, your countertop to clean it. It needs to be already a little bit wet. So abundance is like that. Manifesting is like that. The reason that people that have they say it takes money to, you have to have money to make money, that's false. Actually, what it is when you have money, it's going to attract more money because you are the context of receivability for that money. The people that win the lottery and then go bankrupt, it's because they think that money is going to create that context. That's not the way it works. The context comes first. How do you do that? You practice receiving. People offer you compliments, say thank you. They give you money for gas, you say thank you. You ask for money from your clients. People owe you money, go ask them for it, and then you receive it. So it's a cycle. There's also giving in there. I haven't talked about that too much, but the manifestation comes through how you're receiving it. And the more you receive, the more you have.
Makes perfect sense and explained very well. Thank you for that. It was really broken down into a simplistic way. So yeah, thanks for that. It was really good.
Absolutely.
I was actually mesmerized. I think I have to come and listen to you a bit more often.
Thank you.
Liz, have you got a podcast or a book that you'd like to promote or anything like that?
Absolutely. I just published a song called The Power of a Song. Yeah, that's my ukulele side. I'll come back to the ukulele in a minute. I just published a book called The Power of Asking. It's literally just a couple weeks old. It's on Amazon, obviously, The Power of Asking. The author, Liz Wolfe, my last name does have an E at the end of it. And this is a great introduction if you want to get better at asking, is to read it. It's what's called a short book, so you can actually read it in under an hour or maybe an hour and a half. There are exercises, which I highly recommend that you do, so that would take a little longer, but it would be fabulous for you to get started or for anyone to get started in this powerful asking mode by reading that book. That would be wonderful.
Terrific. All right. So there you go, people. Buy Liz's book on Amazon.
It's only $2.99.
That's it. And yeah,
because it's short.
And you'll learn how to ask.
You will. And you will learn. So we talked a little bit today about fears. So one of the things that I think there are 4 different fears of why we don't ask. Again, in a shorter time together, we don't have time to get into all of them. But so in the book, I do go into detail. And you mentioned also, looking back, one of the things about receiving and asking is like, what were we taught about that by our parents? What were we taught was the right thing to do? And some of us were taught that it was rude to ask for what you want. And but the only way you can get anything is to ask for what you want, which is like,
it's totally opposite to what you're told as a child, and the things that you probably taught your child. Don't ask. You'll get it when you get it, or when I can afford it, or when the time is right, or not today, but maybe we'll look at it next week, or I totally get it. I totally get it.
Or my favorite is when you blow out the candles on a cake, you make a wish, but you're supposed to keep it quiet, because if you say it out loud, it doesn't come true. Who came up with this? Actually, the complete opposite is true. If you don't say what you want out loud, you will not get it. I mean, okay, you can sit around and talk about the law of attraction and intention and all that stuff, but even then, you have to at least say what you want.
Yes. You still have to voice it, otherwise it goes on deaf ears, so to speak. So yes, very true. Liz, where can people find you if they want to work with you?
Oh, well, that would be wonderful. I would love to hear from people. You can find me on my website, which is lizwolfecoaching.com. So that's Wolf with an E, lizwolfecoaching.com. And right on the front page is a link. You can sign up for a free 45-minute business strategy session and speak to me. If you're feeling stuck about anything, I promise you in 45 minutes or maybe a little bit longer, because I sometimes allow for a little more time. I can help you get unstuck, and I would love to hear from you and find out more about your business and see how I can help.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yes. And so remember to go to lizwolfecoaching.com if you need help with asking for money.
That's right. Yeah. You want more money? Call me.
That's it. Yeah, call her. She's the henchwoman. Liz, have you got any final words that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Oh, I do. I always like to put this one in at the end. When you were asking, was that like manifesting? And I said the reason that people have money is because they've received it. A huge misnomer that's out there is that when people try to convince themselves that they deserve to have money because they are worth it. And I'm just letting you know right now, there's not a single human in all of humankind that has ever bought something from someone because they said to themselves, you know what? They deserve it. Let me give that to them. And it's not why people buy from you. So don't kid yourself into thinking like, don't say, well, I deserve to charge more. Charge more. Just charge more. Don't justify it. You do not have to justify abundance. You just ask for it and receive it. And that's all you need to do. Don't need to justify abundance.
Perfectly said. All right, Liz, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for joining me today and discussing with us how we can ask more powerful questions to receive better and receive more.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've enjoyed every minute.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Talking with the experts.